That's right. It's Monday night. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, episode 217. Caps Talk, Wizards Roundtable, and we even got some NFL news for you tonight. I'm in the lab checking out the Vancouver Minnesota game. Minnesota's up 1-0. Just second period just starting. I got some WWE on because we got DC's People's Champ that covers wrestling so well on No Spots podcast. We're gonna have him on later with the NBA Roundtable also. And as always, we got Robbie G in the man cave. Robbie, how you doing
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's been an exciting week. The Wizards, I guess we kind of all predicted they would go 1-1, but they won the game we thought that they would lose, and they lost the game we thought they were going to win. So a little bit different than we had predicted, but same result, I guess. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the All-Star game, which I think was I wasn't driven to it. I think they maybe have too many gimmicks, if that's a thing. They're just trying to draw up attention. And so we'll talk. Brian Brennan watched it a little more closely, so I'm going to get his take on it a little bit later. Also in the NBA segment, but we also have a busy week for both the Capitals and the Wizards. There'll be four games that we'll be previewing in both of those segments, and we'll also talk about the Caps. They were 2-1. I'm happy that they won the game last night because it really changes how I feel about their week overall. So because obviously we'll break down that Tom Wilson thing.
oh,
You and
you
I,
know we're gonna talk about that tonight.
yeah. So it's an interesting week. Anna and I had a fun show yesterday. If people missed it, facebook.com/sportsothp, or just go to our sportsothp.com, our website. It was down for a little bit this morning. It is back up now with all the latest videos and stuff. So definitely go and check that out. We had a great 22-minute interview where we talked about the Tom Wilson. Also, we are going to talk about my man Nicholas Backstrom, 700 assists, and so we broke down a lot of stats about that, which we could also rehash onto tonight's show because I think it's important that even in that big time loss to Boston on Friday, we can't overlook what Backstrom has achieved, and so we'll talk about that a little bit tonight as well. And so mostly hockey and basketball talk. We have a little bit of football news. Do you want to just quickly get into that, and then we'll bring Anna in?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this NFL news. If you missed the news coming out, it's about 3 hours ago. The Cowboys and Dak Prescott have come to terms. He signed a 4-year, $160 million deal with, I believe it was 124 million guaranteed. No, 142 million guaranteed. He's getting 71 million in the first year. So all those questions about Jerry locking up Dak and what's it going to happen, and guess he decided to go ahead and lock him up. That's a hell of a contract, along with the contract that Ezekiel Elliott has. So that's definitely going to put them in a situation with the salary cap. I'm sure. I'm not really aware of their cap situation, but I know it's not real good after this signing. But with all of that money guaranteed, excuse me, that's how you offset the money going against the cap. So that's why I think that number is so high, so it wouldn't totally kill their cap. But as for the Washington football team, it was made official that Alex Smith was released. Also, Thomas Davis, he signed a one-day contract with Carolina to officially retire with them. Alex Smith being released saves the team 14 million on the cap, still 11 million in dead cap money because of the 24 or 10 million because of the 24 million that he was due on his contract. So that puts the Washington football team at about 50 million under the cap. And the predicted number this year because of the COVID, I think they said it went down like 5%, so it'll be like 180 million. And I believe that from what I saw, it's 10 teams that are in good standing with the salary cap. Washington's one of them, like the fourth best team uh, cap money wise, but it's like the rest of the league is either like 10 or 12 million under the cap and going to have to do some serious cutting or restructuring contracts. And some folks are, over the cap already, and they have to figure out how they're going to get under the cap with the salary cap situation where it is. So there's going to be a lot of interesting free agents on the market once folks start getting cut for salary cap reasons. So the Washington football team is definitely in the buyer's market, and they're in a prime position to get some talent and fill some of these holes that this team has had for a while. So just say everything happens for a reason. We had to ride those 6 years of Jay out to get to Coach Rivera, and the salary cap. We had to deal with Bruce Allen. Everybody hated him, but you got to give him credit for fixing the salary cap issues and in the position they're in now. So hopefully we can see continue to see a positive trend with the Washington football team.
Yeah, no, it's mostly good news coming out of the Washington football team. Some less good news, but we're not going to get into all of that. Lots of rumors, a lot of speculation, lots of making some announcements on Twitter that maybe they should email people ahead of time about. But we're not going to get into all the politics aside. We're going to leave all that to a later show. But
We ran last night about that on At the Bar Radio. So if you want to hear my thoughts, you can go check out my YouTube channel, Carol Porter III. And I gave my thoughts on this whole situation with the rumors that I know everybody know we're talking about, but we're not even going to give any credence because that's not what we do here.
Right. That sounds good. So, Joe, check that out. If you go to sportsothp.com and you can click on our YouTube things, you can check out mine. I've got some awesome new stuff, including HD versions of this podcast, as well as scuba videos. And Carol's got At the Bar Radio and his view of our proceedings. We do it a little bit differently if you're watching on one or the other. And we have all the different options on our website as well. So if you want to go back and see any of the different angles. So anyway, let's move into hockey talk. We're going to bring in Anna here, and we're going to discuss an exciting 2-in-1 week, right? So Anna and I were talking yesterday. It's either going to be 1 and 2, where it's definitely less good, right? And then or 2-in-1. I will take it. How are you doing?
I'm good. Okay, I'm not muted, right?
No, you're good today.
You're coming in loud and clear.
Okay. I'm good. I'm actually happy to announce that I am going back to teaching tomorrow live.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So this will be I don't know, it's so, like, I know I said it last week, but it's like it has been a year, and all of a sudden it's like okay, well, I can't be in my PJs anymore, and I gotta look a little bit more presentable.
Right.
So I'm doing that tomorrow. So I am excited.
I forget that Liz's birthday was the last thing that I did. It was out public and doing stuff without a mask, and the whole world ended that next weekend.
Yeah,
and we're coming up on a year from Carol, us doing our 4th anniversary show, which was a COVID special talking about what is this world about to turn into.
Yeah.
And then we took this huge hiatus before we actually started the season that we're currently in, and. Next week, we're actually going to celebrate 5 years of this show. So that'll be a fun one. We're going to have a live hockey game. And it's going to be, I believe it's against the Islanders. So that's going to be.
I thought it was against Buffalo.
Oh, Buffalo. I'm sorry. You're exactly right. Yeah, no, it's good. I'd rather have it at Buffalo than at the New York Islanders. By the way, the New York Islanders, if you don't know, are undefeated in regulation at home. So you don't want to play them on the island right now.
No.
Them and the Capitals right now are the 2 hottest teams in all of hockey since the middle of February, and both of them play in the toughest division, where everyone talks about on the mainstream media about Toronto this, Toronto that. They're beating up on terrible teams, where meanwhile we're trying to hold our own against the Bostons of the world, even Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, which are tough outs. And both teams have done admirably well over the last couple of things. I was looking at the stats comparatively. So the Islanders are much better at home. They are on the road, where the Capitals are dead even, exactly the same home and away standings. So, which is good when we talk about 2018. We had to win on the road a lot. So obviously that's a important thing going forward. Let's rewind it back a little bit to last week, and we'll talk about the first Boston game, which is the better of the Boston game. And then we'll talk about Zdeno Chara's return back to Boston. So you break down the scoring, and I want to get Carol's thoughts on that, and then I'll give my take.
Absolutely. So last Wednesday, the Caps headed to Boston. In the first and second period, there were no goals, which I don't know how you want to take that, but I think it sounded like it was a two teams that were just out to get each other and play 60 minutes of hockey. And I think that it was awesome. I love it. And then at minute 19, Pasternak scores for Boston, but 5 minutes later, Eller scores his fifth, assisted by Panik, which was his fifth, and Jensen his seventh assist to tie it up, and then they had to head into overtime. And here we go, Jacob Vrana scores. That's all that you need to know, 2-1. And I will say the highlight, and I'm sure Carol will agree with me on this one, was a Vanacek save on a Marchand overtime shot. That was a thing of beauty. I could watch it over and over and over again because I think that cocky player was thinking he was going to get it, and he didn't, and we won, and it was good. This was a Capitals team that definitely came out. They played smart hockey. I mean, they just looked good. They looked tight. They looked, in it. And I do have to laugh at the whole Ovechkin slashing penalty because, come on, it's like, who was this kid?
Well, at least it's not spearing, right? So that used to be a much worse penalty. It used to be called spearing, and there was a much bigger fine with that. And they've now changed it to. They started with roughing, but that was not the right call. Then they corrected it to call it slashing, which is the right call. And he has to take $5,000 fine with that.
Yeah, there's really no PC way to say it except Ovechkin was amazing and good on him for what he did. But the fact that, it went from slashing to spearing to whatever, and then all the memes afterwards. And it's like, who the hell do you think you are going up against Alex Ovechkin? You're like this cocky nothing trying to pick a fight. So I thought it was priceless. And $5,000.
I liked when he skated away because Ovechkin's like, I don't want to fight you, but do you really want this? And then he was like, actually, I don't. And like turned around and left. And I thought that was about right. I'm like, no, you don't really. I mean, he doesn't fight, but it's not to say that he couldn't fight. It's just he doesn't fight. Like,
Yeah, he don't want to overly risk his hands getting into a fight. We've seen what he can do. We still remember in the Carolina playoff series when he basically knocked Slim out. This game, I did the post game with Robbie. This game was amazing. Had a playoff feel, not just by the score, but just by the way the whole game was played. You had solid goaltending, you had solid defense, you had hard hitting, you had good forecheck. It was a battle out there, and you knew what was going to happen in the second game after this game, and it was going to be even more physical. These teams really don't like each other, and I can't stand Marchand just as much as Adam. But I want somebody just to punch him through the ice. I know. But I mean, this game to me was beautifully played by both teams. It was to me it was a classic hockey game that you could sit back and watch over and over. And I actually watched it again after,
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
it looked good.
Yeah, just going back and forth. It was just such a good game. And I mentioned in the post game with Robbie with the shootout, I like Rana going first instead of always having TJ Oshie going first. I feel that puts more pressure on him. But someone in front of him that can score, and then they know he's coming up second or third. That puts more pressure on the other team, and that plays into the Capitals' advantage. So I hope they stick to that formula, let him go number two, because they know how prolific he is at it. But get somebody else that can make some moves and possibly get that first goal to put the pressure on the other team. Robbie, what is your take?
Yeah, no, I think you sort of said a lot right there, and it's all good. I mean, I loved Double V in this game, just really stellar, especially in the shootout. I mean, to just blank them is an impressive, thing for any goaltender, and he's just improving so much. He's so young, and he's got so much potential, and the fact that we've been able to ride him, and the people. It's going to be interesting to see. We'll have this debate of who we should go to in the next game in a couple of games here, but I'm happy to ride the hot hand in general. Like, I think Sam should probably start the next game because he won the last one, and I'm okay with that because, and I understand in the next game we continued that trend and then it fell off. But there's a whole lot of reasons why that game kind of fell apart. We can break that down. But I thought in this game he was great. He's been great all season, and it's fun to see him develop. I love Verana. I mean, what an incredible goal in the shootout, and what a great defensive game. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it wasn't high scoring. Oh, the Caps aren't playing well." But if you're a hockey purist and you've watched the sport for a long time, it was great defensive battle. This is what a playoff game looks like. It was funny going into this game. The Caps were 1, the Bruins, I think, were 4, and so it was going to be the battle potentially in the first round. And then like later in the week, it was 2 and 3, and then we're like, oh, it could be the battle again. And so I mean, this is something I don't know if we'd see in the first round. I don't know if we'd see him in the second round, but it's a team that it's important to play well, and it's going to be interesting to see down the stretch how we play against them. Unfortunately, the 2 losses have been in regulation, and the 2 wins have been shootout overtime, so they've gotten some additional points off of us that way. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I was super happy with the return for Big Z. I thought that was really nice. I'm sad that the fans couldn't be there to support them, because I'm sure so many at home wanted to be. And I thought they were very classy about that. Carol, do you have any thoughts on that part?
I mean, it was definitely, he did get the fans involved with the, virtual videos and stuff with the fans thanking him. The sort of respect from the Bruins on the bench, still giving him, love. And I mean, like I said on the post game, I loved him when he was in Ottawa, when I was following Ottawa back in the day. And he, it's been 14 years there. They got a cup there, so that's always going to be a special place for him there. So they did a good job, and it's definitely good to get the win on this first night back. It's going to be different when they do let fans back. It's going to be a whole other situation with the fans there, but it was good. I think they did a good job, and salute him for all the hard work and time he put in with the organization.
Yeah. And then Tom Gobble says Char might be the best bargain at $750,000 you would ever get, which is so true. I can't believe that Boston didn't just be like, and I understand maybe not make him the captain, maybe remove that tag, or maybe you put him in a lower role, but don't tell him he's not playing every night. The guy wants to play every night. If that was his thing, right? So, I mean, that was all you had to do is pay him that less than $1 million and say you're just not.
You got to look at the defensemen that Boston had. They got young. They actually mentioned it on the broadcast that they have 6 defensemen, all under 27 years old. So they were trying to be faster, and he just wasn't going to be in the plans because they're in the mode right now. They want to get them solidified and get them chemistry together, because they're going to hopefully they're going to, their plan is to keep them together for a while with how young they are. So I understand the logic. It's just that Big Z still has more to give. I think he's averaging almost 20 minutes of ice time.
Yeah.
So I mean, they were talking about giving like 7 minutes a night. He's out there doing 20. So I mean, and he's still playing good defense, still checking hard, and he even got a goal out of it.
But the fact that he's with Nick Jensen, and look at what Jensen
and they did so well, especially, and we'll talk about that Philly game. But I think that they're a great combo, and I think they're developing some good chemistry there. And then Mike also says they both are saying that they love having Vrana in the shootouts. Mike said he reminds him of Pavel Datsyuk. And then he also likes, Tom was saying before, Vrana, Backstrom, and TJ Oshie are better on the shootouts than Ovechkin is, for example. And I agree with that. I think
absolutely.
I'm not saying you don't use Ovi, but he's maybe your 5 spot, so like he's not like early, but it's not, or maybe even later. I don't know. We have some skilled people who on the breakaway on our team, and Ovechkin's better or just having a heavy shot, but that's, I think, harder in this scenario to be effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I have a lot of people watching us right now, so on the live feed. So I appreciate it. You can keep on answering a bunch of questions there. So that's great. Let's get into, unfortunately, the less good game. You just go through that scoring real fast, and then we can just kind of break down what went wrong quickly, and then we can move on to better things. But yeah.
I got to get my throat on this one.
Yeah, right. This is kind of breaking my heart a little bit. So this was a terrible Friday game. Okay, so Boston scores the only goal in the first, and then the second period they completely dominated because they scored 3 times, and so now we're going into the third period and it's 4-zip. Um, third or going into third period, yeah. So third period, Boston. Then they score again at a minute 3 into the third, and then the only Caps goal comes from Vrana at 13:36 with assist by Backstrom and Oshie, and that's where we should be celebrating Nicholas Backstrom and his 700th assist and how fantastic it is. But the fact that we were like, oh my God, 5-1 to Boston, and we had just played them this fantastic game 48 hours before, and this team was a complete disconnect. I don't know what to say. I mean, I truly was, this game was hard to watch.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, of course, we have the Wilson penalty and blah, 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 7 games.
Yeah, we'll get into
Oh,
but Carol, I want to get your thoughts on the game first, and then we can get into the penalty. It was hard because I usually like to do a post game. I usually do it when we win. I'll be honest. It's hard for me to do them when we lost, mostly because of timing. I have a very small child, but at the same time, it is very tough to stomach some of these losses, and I don't want to necessarily get on camera right after. So I appreciate Anna, you and I getting to talk.
yeah.
A couple of days removed from it, obviously when the suspension was levied. But Carol, what was your initial take on? I thought the game started off well in the first period. I thought things were okay. I thought we had the chances and it looked good, but when we weren't converting, I was getting a little bit nervous because I was like, this could come back and just bite us. And then it just kind of unraveled from the whole team's perspective.
Yeah.
I blame the goalie. I mean, both goalies didn't look particularly fantastic, but it was defensive effort from the forwards, from the D-men. I just all around, it just kind of fell apart on them. What were some of your thoughts?
To me, this game was more of a huge momentum swing due to Tom Wilson being a physical force on the ice. Now, I can't talk about the game without talking about the penalty. I've gone back and looked at it a dozen times. Even the coach said he's went back and looked. I was reading some of the comments he made at his press conference, or he was on that other station that be lying about stuff. But he said that he had reviewed the tape over and over again, and clearly what happened was the puck was in between the Boston player's feet. He looked down and crunched down as Tom Wilson was coming in full blast at about 20 miles an hour on a forecheck. And as he was coming in, it just had, and it really, if you look at it, it really wasn't direct head contact. It was just the force of the hit that forced his head into the glass, and it bounced off of Tom as he was hitting into him. So it shouldn't have been a penalty. I mean, it wasn't a penalty. It shouldn't have been a suspension. But from that point, Boston, we know what type of team Boston is, and if they have something to rally around, especially if it's the big bad Tom Wilson doing the big bad Tom Wilson things that he's been doing, that they rallied around that, and that team has a potent offense, and they have one of the best lines in hockey, if not the best line in hockey, with that little rat on there, but I'm never going to go there. But it just was a momentum swing, and Boston jumped on top and just kept their foot on the pedal, and unfortunately, the Caps didn't rise to the occasion and wasn't able to swing the momentum back in any way. I saw a lot of like over hard passes that was bouncing off the stick and slowing down some of the plays and some of the advantages that they had, that they weren't as crisp as they were in the game before. And that just fed into Boston. And next thing you know, like you said, 3 goals, and it's a 4-0 game. By then, Boston has a good home record. I think the Caps was only second loss that they had the night before, like 5-2, now 6-2. And it just was a momentum swing to me. That was just a classic hockey game of a hit and a fight, swinging the momentum to one team, and it just turned into an avalanche for the Capitals, and they just couldn't
Yeah,
stop.
because Tom Wilson got in a lot of fights, and the whole
Yeah.
flow of the game changed, and they got the benefit of the bounces after that point. So
All three of those goals were scored when Wilson was in the box.
right. So it's at least he had a no decision in one of the fights and like a really solid win in the other one. So I mean, we got something in there with I also the 700 assists. I don't want to like lose that in this whole thing. Some impressive numbers. We did a whole entire breakdown of those numbers on the that little video. So I'm not going to rehash that here, but people can check that out. SportsOTHP.com. Mike was saying the Wilson issue is evidence of lack of integrity and hypocrisy of the Department of Player Safety. And this is one of those games that you just forget about and move on, sweep it under the rug, put it in the back of the closet. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not going to try to harp on it too much, but I think it's important to break down all the wins and losses just because I think you learn from them. I think that hopefully they will take this as a lesson and they'll learn from, and although
this was a reputation suspension because of his so-called, and because the coach on the other team whined after a game, after the hit, talking about it was dirty. And it was
they use the
not a
same
dirty
terminology as what the coach said to,
How he posted that Lars Eller early in the season got hit the same way and was out of the game, and no penalty was called on that, and no, type of suspension for the player that did that.
Should our coach talk about this? Should our coach have pushed harder to say that guy should get a suspension?
I mean, he could have, but if the player
he could have, and maybe it would have been a difference. He had a major penalty on it. It was called differently on the ice, right? So it wasn't like there was a no call. They need to make up with a thing, but by the rule of what we just did here, it should have been a major penalty in game as well as a suspension, right? If we're going to be consistent in the calls, and he should have gotten 5 games for that. If this is 7, right? So like, it's if not worse in some ways. That was from behind and a worse hit. I mean, he at least hit him from the front. There's an argument that this wasn't even a penalty 10 years ago. So, or maybe even less years ago. It's
his reputation. I mean, well, there's no player like him in the NHL, and like they always say, if he's on your team, you love him. If he's not, you hate him. And
yeah, so everyone's probably looking at us like we're biased, or they're Caps fans and they're like, right on, like fuck them for.
But that's the frustration, though, is if I had to look at this, completely separate, not being a Tommy fan forever, and knowing that in 2018 he had, his suspension of his 15 games and how huge that was. Had he gone on from that 2018 suspension and continued to be the goon that everyone, wants to call him and the dirty player, then I can see where this is coming from. But we have a Tom Wilson that has matured, has taken a leadership role, has taken his, he's moved to the top line. And so come on now, like he has made improvements, and I feel like they're just out to get him because of his name, and they're not looking at the fact that he has improved and he is, he's a force on the ice, he's a beast, but he is not out there, consistently initiating and instigating fights.
Right. Over the last 2 years, they use 18 months as a benchmark for fines. Now, it's the monetary side of this. I went back and had to read all of the rules because I was like, how does this work? Like, they're saying that it's not doesn't have the reputation side on the monetary side because it's now more than 18 months since the last suspension. But they do take that into account with his intent based on prior things, right? So it's so murky. I'm like, it's such bullshit that they could do whatever they want.
To hit his man and put him through the boards, which is what hockey is about.
Right.
That was his intent. It was not the harm. It was not to hit him in the head. It was he leaned over and Wilson was coming in full blast.
Yeah.
And the dude is 6'5", Wilson 6'4". So what can you do? It's physics. He's on ice. He's going about 20 miles an hour trying to put him into the board. And
there was no like I said yesterday, and I'm so sorry, Carol, I didn't mean to cut you off. the thing that absolutely disgusts me is when the fact that not only Bruce Cassidy, but NHL just using the word predatory. It's like, give me a fucking break. Like, it was not a predatory hit. If you look at how it was in, there was no, it was not malicious. It was, you got momentum, like you said,
Right.
Carol, like,
But
like
the
he's
problem is
coming
there's
at
two
him.
angles. If you use one
But,
angle
oh my
and slow
God.
it down, it looks
Yep.
like one thing, and you choose the other angle and slow it down, it looks like something completely different. And the thing is you can slow mo shit and you can zoom in to make things and
Yep.
sensationalize things to be any part of any narrative. A
That's
lot of
Tom
people
Wilson.
are chiming in on social media on this because I know this would be a hot button topic. And Tom is saying our owner and GM needs to come out and blast Department of Player Safety for this.
Yes.
Go after them for it. That's an interesting and bold move. He would get fined for it, but I don't necessarily blame him. He's got the money. If there's ever a time to put them on blast, it would be for this. And then he says the reputation thing was created by the league, not Tom. Tom is a big rig and plays hard. They created the reputation, not him. And Mike continues on and says the hypocrisy comes in. Look at Brad Marchand's reputation. Look at Crosby's. Both of them are known around the league for cheap and dirty hits. And where are their suspensions?
Exactly.
So like, yes. So like,
well, I feel like there's so many. There's nothing with Crosby. There's nothing with Marchand. There's nothing with Reeves. I mean, give me a freaking break. It's like I just don't. It is. It's like, and here's Tom Wilson, and then you understand, like, now he's gonna waive the.
He's not going to appeal it.
Exactly.
Right. But okay, so I want to explain that real quickly because there's been a debate on should he appeal it, not appeal it on Facebook. So I do want to address this for a second. The amount of time it would take to appeal it is more than 2 weeks. So it's like they've kind of like, which is crazy because all it is talking to the commissioner and then an independent arbitrator. But you play so many games, there's so many things, the league is busy, right? Somehow it gets dragged on because remember he tried to limit the 20 game one, back in 2018.
Right.
And he got it down to 16, I believe it was, but already had served 18 of them by the time that they lowered it to 16.
Yeah.
So like, if that's the case with that one, there's no way in 2 weeks that they're gonna like get less than 7. Like maybe they get it down to 5. And
such a manipulation. Oh my gosh.
So like, what's the point of fighting it? They make it so difficult.
Go ahead and serve and get it over with and get him back on the ice and get his timing back.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's like, that's bullshit that they made it so, like, how hard is it to like appeal to the commissioner? Like it
exactly
take 2 weeks. Like
he's not playing.
Right. I don't, what's the commissioner doing that's so busy right now? So like,
not a damn thing.
Not a damn thing. He's sitting back cashing checks.
Yeah, exactly. So I think people know where we stand on it, what should have happened, what actually happened. And I guess just like Tom Wilson, we're going to have to move on. But, it is bullshit and it's important. And I'm happy we talked about it because it shouldn't just be overlooked and be like, oh, ho, hum. Like, we're lucky we have the team that we can field without Tom Wilson, that we could go out and do what we did on Sunday.
Exactly.
And that's going to be my segue to let you break down a much better game.
A much, much better game. So yesterday the Caps headed to play the Flyers. The Flyers scored the only goal in the first. And then in the second period at 15-11, the captain scores his 8th, assisted by Oshie and Chara. About 5 minutes later, Orlov. Let's just pause there. Carol, Orlov gets his 2nd. And it was a fantastic goal. And I almost, I don't know. I just had to I don't know.
Every once in a while we have to give him some
pour something out for that guy. Cause I'm like, what the hell? Assisted by Carlson and Vrana in third period at 4:15. Here we go. Nick Jensen. After I forget how many games, 387 games or some ridiculous amount of games.
2018.
I mean, it's insane. He gets his first, assisted by Backstrom and Oshie. Fantastic. And so we had Sammy in between the pipes and he gets 36 saves. This was an awesome game. And I think that when Robbie and I spoke before, we definitely felt like that whole Wilson cloud, put it aside, next man up, let's go forward. And my thing was, we started off with the 4 Russians out in the beginning, because of COVID, and everyone was a little bit nervous about it. And the Capitals kicked ass. And so it's like, what, let's not doubt the team. And not that anybody is, but it's like, let's just keep that going. Like, this is awesome. So I think that, what happened with Tommy sucks, and it's frustrating as hell. But you know what? Who played yesterday on ice? Good on them, because they looked awesome, and good on Sammy.
Yeah, again, we're lucky we have the team that we can field. I actually looked at the lineup card with you in our pregame show, and we were like, damn, this would be a solid team going against anybody. We're so lucky. I mean, I'm not saying Tom Wilson is expendable by any means. He's an amazing person. Of course. Obviously we'll miss him. But like the way that the lineup card looks straight up and down, I'm like, that looked like a team that could beat Philadelphia that day. We believed in it.
Absolutely.
In that pregame.
It was the next man up.
And they looked good. I mean, obviously it didn't start off well. It was a bit of a leaky goal. Carol and I talked about Sam's early leaky goals in the previous game. But he's finding ways to have these early flawed moments and then using that as a moment to say, that's it. That's the last one I'm giving up. And then he shuts it down from that point forward. And if you can do that, that wins you playoff games. I mean, I think when we're talking about, like, you're not going to give up 0 goals, but how do you respond is an important thing for goaltenders, especially going forward. And when we try to decide who's going to be our number 1, and I'm fine riding the hot hand and not naming a number 1, and we can keep playing it this way for a while. But eventually somebody's going to have to play in game 1 of the playoffs, right? So, and that's the person you want that gives up that first goal, but then shuts it down after that. Now, I'm hoping it's not leaky like this goal. And so many people jumped on him so quickly on forums, and they were like, this guy needs smelling salts. He needs to find a way to wake up earlier. He needs like a way. I'm like, the guy then went on to stop 36 of 37, goals. Right? 36 shots of 37, and I'm like, maybe you don't make that message 5 minutes into a hockey game or whatever it was, 11, 9 minutes in, whatever. Anyway, but like the point is like, it's how you respond. So maybe don't just immediately react. And I know it's hard. Trust me, I want to be doing that too. And I have to like try to avoid that. But like, and Carol knows he's had to talk me off of many ledges in hockey games. But like, at the same time, it's like, it drives me crazy. It's like, he's not as bad as the 1 goal he lets in. He's as bad as whatever the final score is. And so Carol, I guess, talked about that a little bit and how he kind of redeemed himself.
I mean, honestly, this was a good answer to the previous game. As you mentioned, Anna, next man up. I mean, to me, this season kind of reminds me of the 2018 season. Oh, there's some breaking news coming through on the football front. Apparently, the Titans are sending first-round pick Isaiah Wilson and the 2022 7th-round pick to the Dolphins for 20. I'll read that later. Getting back to this game, just coming through, I don't want to break it before everything becomes official. But this was a good answer game. I like the way that they stepped up. It reminds me of the 2018 season. They had Brooks Orpik, the old guy that was teaching the young guys. Now they got Char. Tom Wilson served suspension, next man up. Had a little bit of adversity and had, some hot streaks where they were winning on a good clip, and they had some losing streaks where they, lost 4 or 5. It had to straighten up. And to me, this is just a game that helps build the character and the momentum of this team, along with, as you mentioned, when the 4 Russians were out, how they stepped up. So it's good to see that they, step up when they have to, so the coach can lean on that down the line when, if they aren't playing well, he can use that to say, even when we didn't have, this person, or we didn't have our best players, you guys still stepped up and, answered the bell. So let's get out there and do it. And Samsonov, he's still finding himself. That's only the 2nd game since he's been back. And, the first goal, I didn't actually get to see the first goal, but I saw they were down and I missed it. But unfortunately, it was a leaky goal, as Robbie said. I'm going to take his word for it. And, like he said, he found a way to save the next 30 6 out of 37 shots. So
Yeah.
what more can you ask for? You know, like you said, it's not always going to be a shutout. You know, we love to see shutouts. We love to see our goalies shine and, you know, shut the other team out. But, you know, it doesn't happen every night. One goal is a pretty damn good thing. You know, they only give up one goal in a 60-minute game.
You'll
It's a
win most
60-minute
games if you
short.
only let up one goal. So, like,
Yeah, it's like, you know, come on now. What do you want to give them a half a goal?
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes. It's like nothing can make people happy. I'm just like,
No.
let's like some amount of time. And people were trashing on Ovechkin in the first. He's like, will he ever score again? And then of course he scores first. I'm just
Then he
like,
scores.
right. And then,
Yeah.
and to be
When
fair,
folks
we
start saying stuff like that, I just automatically block them or tune them out because obviously the meth
right.
pipe that they're hitting or the whatever they're smoking, it just went to their head. If your question
Right.
is over, you smoke
But
that.
we've hated on Orlov in the past for being leaky with goals and defensively, and I thought he played good defensively in this game, and he was able to score a beautiful goal. So we'll give him props for that. And Nick Jensen, breaking the offer. I mean, I think was it like 165 games or something like that. Like,
Absolutely ridiculous. But going back to the Orlov thing, I will say, I will with Jensen, yes, I have thrown him under the bus and been like with that guy, and he's proven himself. But with Orlov, the fact that if you could just like take his face when he scores, his expression, and the fact that he is just as shocked and as surprised that he scored and screenshot that. It's like, yeah, that's how we all feel. There's a reason why there's that feeling
I
about.
like Skorloff. I mean, for me, I mean, number 9 is my favorite number, and so I'm always going to be very excited when number 9 for my team scores. And now I got number 9, who's the one Jewish player on the Wizards, which is
There
like
you go.
amazing. So I'm like, it's great. So I like both of them. I know that I've defended him, even though maybe at times I shouldn't. But I was happy to see this. But for timing purposes, I know it's already 9:45.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give everyone the upcoming schedule, and then we'll rapid fire. I'll get each of your thoughts on each of the upcoming games.
Sure.
And then we'll get out of here. We've got New Jersey. It's a Tuesday game at 7:00. We'll then go back to Philadelphia for Thursday and Saturday. Both of those are at 7, and then Monday at Buffalo at 7:00. So tomorrow or next Monday for our 5-year anniversary show, we're starting that at 9. But it will. The game will kind of be in progress. So we're going to be discussing the end of that Buffalo game as well as breaking down the New Jersey and 2 games at Philadelphia all at the same time, just to add another level of excitement. I'm going to start with Carol. Carol, I'm going to go through the gauntlet with you and get your thoughts. So the first one is versus New Jersey. What are your thoughts on that one?
That should most likely be a win, as you mentioned the last week before when they took both of them from them. I believe they won the last 23 out of 27 versus the Devils over the last 3 or 4 years. So this should definitely be a win, a good tune-up for the matchup with the Flyers going back. You know, Jersey isn't really a bad team. They're just still young and rebuilding, but they do give you a good push and do push you to the limit sometimes. So it's going to be a good warm-up to go back to Philly and try to continue what they did on Sunday and hopefully get 2 more wins against back-to-back. Nothing like beating a team at their place back-to-back, which they would have did against Boston this past week, but hopefully they can do it against Philly this week.
Yep. And then at Buffalo next week during our
Oh, yeah,
5-year show. What are your thoughts on that one?
we played them like 8 times now. How many times we played them already? This is going to be another tight game because they played each other so much, and then you pretty much know all the wrinkles. And Wilson is going to be there, so teams play a little different when they know time isn't on the ice. So that's something else that we should definitely pay attention to when it comes to penalties, also, because even though we still do have some guys that can handle it, but when time not out there, it's like they like, okay, yeah, we can. At least we ain't got to worry about getting knocked out if we do something we ain't supposed to do. So I think it's going to be another tight, low-scoring game, but the Capitals should be able to pull that out.
Yeah, I think we've played 6 of our games against Buffalo, maybe already. Or
And I feel like don't
there's
they have a
one might be rescheduled. So I don't know if we've actually know all of the dates of all of them. So there might be 3 more left. So I know that they had their own situation. I know some things were rescheduled. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. All right, and I'll let you break down your thoughts. Jersey, then at Philly for 2, and then Buffalo.
Good thing.
What are your thoughts?
Jersey, I agree with Carol. I think we should absolutely win this, but I do think because they are a young team, they are not one to just assume a win. Don't drop our guard. There's no way, and we're not going to have Tommy. So next man up, and let's see what they can do. Philly, I feel like you have 3 players to really kind of look out for, which is your Konechny, Farabee, and Carter Hart. I mean, between the pipes, the guy's been hot. So I think that you have players on that team. You just cannot underestimate them. And I know Gil said on our podcast that this is the team. This is the team to watch this year. This is the team that's going to take it all. And I wasn't ready to jump on board, but I can see the potential. Man, the fight is there with the Flyers. So we'll see what happens. And Buffalo, I don't know. I felt like they had a ton of injuries. Maybe, I don't know, maybe now because I felt like we played them so early, like every other day in the beginning. And now we've had a little bit of a break, but again, it's just any team out there right now is, I think the Capitals need to not focus on who it is that we're playing, but play the 60 minutes.
Yeah,
And
play the full game and
that's
play
it.
good defense and just
Yeah.
get enough scoring and win some games. And I agree. We kind of thought we're hoping for 3-0, but we thought 2-1 was a possibility. I'll get your guys' take. We're not going to give predictions on the Buffalo game because that'll be a live game next week. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you to do the Jersey and the 2 Philadelphia games. Carol, overall, how do you think they're going to do?
I think it's going to be some hard hitting, tight hockey. I know coach gonna drive the point home and going to rally around Wilson's suspension. From all the press conferences I've heard, that's pretty much what I think his mindset right now. Next man up, and use it as the way to push the team in the right direction, something they can build off of and rally around. So it's going to be interesting going down the stretch.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for for chatting in with us. Roman was saying that the Caps passing was on point against the Flyers. They managed their puck well and they played defense. They were also talking about the league is softer and that isn't changing. He's going to have to deal with there's fan club of haters and he needs to give them less material to work with, so but then Mike responded back that there was no time for Tom Wilson to adjust on that play. What is he supposed to do, just stop playing and just stop on the play? And exactly. So I mean it's a tough battle both ways and they got to find someone in between. I see that Gil's now watching. Hey Gil. And it's been an interesting up and down week. I'm still going to say 2-1. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the Jersey game, but you could always drop that and win the 2 Philly games, or maybe win 1 Philly and 1 New Jersey game and drop 1 Philadelphia game. I don't think it's going to be a perfect week, but as long as we keep racking up points without Tom Wilson, and I think that we'll be in a good place. And did you give a final prediction of what you think?
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a 2-1, and I think we're going to see. Like the Jacob Frana scoring. I think Backstrom's consistent. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the captain scoring. I'm okay with it. I think smart hockey. We don't need to think about the sin bin stuff and just get out there and play. And this whole Wilson cloud for the next 7 games or next 6 games, it doesn't need to be the focus. And I think that these guys know exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, I like that. This is good practice for them. I mean, we talked about it a little bit on our little sideshow that we did on Sunday, but it was they're going to have to learn to deal with big pieces out in the playoffs and this with the condensed schedule. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be suspensions. There's going to be moments like this. And so learning to play without Tom at this moment and playing without the Russian players at other moments, it's all great learning experience. And they're just going to have to learn to deal and adjust. And that's, again, what won us the cup in 2018 was our ability to adjust to adversity. I mean, we were without Tom Wilson
Absolutely.
for all the 3 final games against Pittsburgh,
Right.
and we finally beat them, right? So, I mean, if anyone was going to ask you, Carol, before that series, we're going to beat Pittsburgh, but it's without Tom Wilson, you would think that they would probably be crazy, right? Like, it's just, and
Absolutely.
so these are those kind of moments that they gotta, step up. But I know, Anna, that you had a fiery conversation with Gil earlier in the podcast. I got about halfway through the show. Before the show, I was
Yeah, no
setting up.
problem.
It was it's a great listen. SportsOTHP.com. Click our podcast partners button. Click the Power Play Point podcast. You'll hear more of Anna talking about Tom Wilson. You'll hear more of Gil talking about it, as well as breaking down the games and a whole lot more. Anna, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, and look forward to talking to you all next week.
Sounds good. All right. Thank
And
you so
take
much.
it easy.
All right, you too. Take care.
All right, Carol. I think we're going to bring my Wizards roundtable in. And Carol, I assume did you see any of the All-Star game or anything like that? I'll let you be
I
the
forgot
voice.
it was this weekend, man. I was working and I totally forgot. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely let y'all break it down, and I'll sit back in the cut. You might hear me ask some questions, throughout, but maybe not. I'm about to finish this beer and sit back and listen to y'all.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Well, I've got a whole team of guests from all different sorts of backgrounds and fun adventures. Both, water. I'm very jealous right now. People listening in the audio podcast have no idea what I'm talking about. But we got, Tim joining us on a lovely beach. Also, Arun, lovely palm trees as well. Brian Brennan with the classic white background.
I'm just in my room.
in his room.
You got the hostage video back.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
You can be anywhere. And we also got the voice of DC's People's Champ. How are you doing, Champ?
I am God. No, I'm not. I'm not God. No. How you guys doing? How y'all doing?
We're doing good. We're gonna break down 2 Wizards games very quickly, and then I'm gonna let Brian Brennan give his report on the All-Star game, and if any of you guys saw it, you guys can give your thoughts on that as well. And then we've got 4 big games this upcoming week. I will give each one of you guys a team, and then you guys can break down that matchup as well. And we'll try to get all of this done in like 30 minutes, and then we can all get out of here early and have a podcast. So all right, we're gonna start off. Well, first I want to welcome everybody. So I'm gonna welcome Tim. How are you doing tonight, Tim?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm still recovering from that All-Star game that I could barely watch. So
it was very painful. I don't really understand anything that I was watching. That's why when I Brian tried to break it down to me, I tried to look up the rules ahead of time. None of it made a whole lot of sense. And it seems like LeBron James just was always going to win, no matter what he does, no matter who's on his team, no matter how well he plays so far in this new format. So. But anyway, I basically he drafted a bunch of all-stars. They did all of it for him. He did nothing, and his name is on the winning team. But anyway,
GM.
Yeah, exactly, of superstars. And then I'll bring in Arun. Arun, how are you doing tonight?
Not bad, just chilling at the beach.
Yeah. So, were you able to stomach any of the All-Star game?
I think I'm glad I recorded it because the second quarter was okay. Then the third quarter, I passed the second half, and especially the fourth quarter, I fast forwarded through. Although the ending was pretty nice by Dame Lillard, I'll give him props. It was pretty boring. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get Brian's full take and his full thoughts on the different events that they had beginning, during, at the end. I don't know, but also all things throughout. And but Brian, I was listening to your Friday podcast. I thought you did a great job, and I appreciate you answering one of my questions for the first time.
Thank
I got
you.
to submit one. How are you doing today,
question,
Brian?
by the way. Great question. I really liked your question.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me outside.
Awesome. And I know that Champ has been doing all sorts of great stuff with his podcast and on his Twitch channel. And I know that he had a great simulcast last night. I was unable to catch most of it, but I did see that he was on and broadcasting. I know he had a great time with Sith. I know they're doing big things with that. At the end of this podcast, I'm going to let him give a shout out for all the different things No Spots podcast, but just generally, Champ, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good. The stream last night was a lot of fun, and I gotta give a big shout out to Bradley Beal, who led Team Durant in scoring in the All Star game last night with 26 points. Big shout out to him in his first All Star game as a starter. That's big. That's big stuff right there.
Yeah, definitely. He was putting up points. An unfortunate losing effort, I guess, for him. But he didn't seem to mind too much. I don't think anyone really knows whether they win or lose those kind of games. They're just all kind of happy to be there, which definitely takes a little of the competitiveness out of it. But anyway, let's talk about the other games first. One game we all thought they were going to win, they lost, and the other game we all thought they might lose, they won. So we'll start off with that. The Grizzlies game, which we thought they would play better. I realize I'm already not sharing my screen, which isn't helpful for showing stats. So hold on, let me do that real fast. And here we go. All right, so let me see if I can drag this a little bit and make that a little better. All right, so sorry, I just got to move two things around real fast. All right, that works better. All right, so let's talk about this game real fast. We thought that the Wizards would play better. The Grizzlies came out on top 35-33 in the first. In the second quarter, the Grizzlies this is where they asserted a bit of dominance. They outscored 36 points to 23. Then the Grizzlies continued to outscore them 25-22. And then the Wizards kind of made a little bit of a game of it in garbage time with 33-29. But overall, it was 111-125. This game, it was hard to, I don't know, I want to say stay focused on. They lost me a little bit throughout this game, but Russell Westbrook played decent, 23 points and 15 assists. Bradley Beal put up 23 points himself, but just overall just wasn't enough. I'm going to get Arun's take on this game first. Arun, what were some of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, they're not going to win this game if Bradley Beal turns it over 6 times. Russell Westbrook turns it over 8 times, and I don't know. It wasn't real. I mean, the Grizzlies have been playing pretty well, I guess. Like Tim pointed out last week, they were 500, and like then they actually had blown up the Clippers the previous week. They got John Morant back in the lineup. Russell Westbrook didn't play much defense on him throughout the game. It was interesting that Rui played his former college teammate Brandon Clark, but he was outclassed, and yeah, it was a blowout loss and pretty disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on this matchup?
I thought the Wizards would actually come out and win this game fairly easily, mostly because the Boston loss was so crushing, and I thought the Wizards would be really excited to get out there and have a great first quarter. And they didn't have a bad first quarter. They were very competitive, but like you said, the second quarter absolutely destroyed them, and they were down like 15 or 16 at halftime. They just didn't really play with much energy or urgency in the second half, really at all. And I mean, Memphis is a decent team, but you have to come out with a lot more urgency at home. And I don't know what it was. Maybe you just don't get up for a team like this and you look ahead to the Clippers, but it just it was kind of a very disappointing performance.
Yeah, I agree. Champ, what were some of your thoughts?
It seems to be the narrative with this team that when they play a team like the Grizzlies, who are a middle of the road team, they kind of play down to their competition. Whereas if it's a team that's in the upper echelon, they play up to that. And this is that same scenario here. They played down to their competition, and that's why they got beat the way that they did. John Morant just went off. Point blank period. He went off, had 35 points, and just absolutely just took over the game. This team had no answer for him. Yeah, you had your your backcourt of Westbrook and Beal both scoring over 20 points, but how does that equate when you can't stop someone like John Morant who goes out there and just absolutely tortures you? So again, this is a situation where they played down to the competition and they didn't get up for it, and the end result was they lost, and they lost big.
Yeah. Brian, any thoughts on this game?
No, I think everybody kind of hit the nail on the head with this one. It's a disappointing loss, a game that you kind of thought they might win. I think we all kind of thought of the two games that they had this week before the All-Star break, that this would be the game that they would win. But a great performance by the Grizzlies. John Morant is one of the best young players in this game. Like, he's incredible. He had 35 points in this game. Some other nice players from the Grizzlies as well. I think Arun touched on a really good point too with the turnovers from Beal and Westbrook. You cannot have that many turnovers from your key players and expect to win a game, no matter who you're playing. Like, that's just sloppy, and you can't expect to win that game. So this was a bad loss.
I agree. All right, so let's get into the more exciting game. So this Clippers game was a bit more surprising. So I have to give the Wizards some credit. They had the first Jewish Heritage Night, which I didn't even really know about last week when we were doing the podcast, because I believe it was announced after on Tuesday for a Thursday game, or maybe it was a Wednesday game? No, I think it was Thursday. It was
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't announce it
Really
very
last
far in
minute.
advance. Yeah. But it was cool. I think it was in some ways to promote the fact that they've got a Hebrew language Twitter account and Instagram that I didn't know about before. So and I think it was a good opportunity to bring stars from Israel into maybe some, to be seen in videos and promotional materials, and to learn more about where Denny Avdija is from. And I think it was a cool thing. I mean, as a Jewish person, I always like to show more inclusivity of all different groups. I mean, they've had Heritage Nights for so many different groups of people. Most people, I shared about it to most of the Wizards groups, and most people seem very supportive of it and excited that it was happening. Of course, there's always going to be a couple of haters, but at the same time, I'm happy that they did it, and I'm mostly really happy that they won against the Clippers, which I didn't expect. When I thought they were going to do this, I was like, oh, that's so sad. They're going to do Jewish Heritage Night, and it's going to be like a blowout, and the Clippers are going to destroy us, and that's going to be just really sad for me, because I'm going to tune in and watch this, and I was getting all excited. And I even told my dad about it, and he was like, wait, they have Jewish Heritage Night? I mean, he was just as surprised as anybody. And but he tuned in, and I was excited that they were able to win. So let's break it down a little bit. The Wizards outscored them 25-22 in the first. Then the Clippers kind of really opened up the game and scored 39 points in the second quarter. And at that point, I was like, oh, this isn't going to go well. But then the Wizards, they hang on tough, and they outscored the Clippers 33-26. And then they were able to outscore them 32-30 to hold on to a 119-117 victory. It was a very close game. We'll talk about the ending in a moment, but I was impressed that Kawhi Leonard played well, but overall there was a lot of double-digit scores, but nobody else was sort of broke that 20-point. And in today's NBA, usually, and it seems like strange, but a lot of teams have like 2 20-point scorers and a couple of 10-point scorers just because of how many possessions there are. But I just thought that they played really well. Bradley Beal had 33 points. Russell Westbrook, people thought had a triple-double for a while, but they took one of the rebounds away, and 9 rebounds, 11 assists, and 27 points. I think there's been a couple of games this season where he's been one stat away, just like one assist or one rebound or whatever away from a triple-double. But I thought Denny played well. He was perfect from the field, 2 for 2, had 7 rebounds in 25 minutes. So I'm happy he played. Just overall, I thought a really great game. I'm going to go, I'll ask Brian from the outsider's perspective. What were your thoughts on this game?
Honestly, I didn't watch this game, but, it's a good win for the Wizards, definitely against the Clippers. Especially going into the All-Star break, if you think about all the momentum this team has had over the last couple of weeks, to have a win like this, the way they played, outside of the Boston and the Memphis game, they played really well these last couple of weeks. So to have a win like this going into the All-Star break, I thought was really good. Bradley Beal had another big game for the Wizards. He had 33 points. I mean, like I said, I didn't see this game, so I don't really have a whole lot to say. But Yeah, I think this is a really good win for the Wizards going into the All-Star break for sure.
Well, I think you make a good point because on that road trip they played really well, and one of
Yeah.
their biggest losses was to this Clippers team. So I think
Right, they
it's
avenged
kind
the
of
loss.
a statement game to avenge that loss. So I think that's key. Arun, what are some of your takeaways in this?
Yeah, I thought the Wizards played pretty well. Paul George was out in this one due to dizziness, which really helped the Wizards. After that, I think the Wizards, I thought, became the favorites in this game beforehand. And I think they figured out something in the second half of that Clippers game, even though it was a blowout in the third quarter. They played really well. I think the rotations were a bit screwed up in the fourth quarter, and Scott Brooks didn't rest his starters, but that carried over into this game. Ending was pretty crazy. They were up by 8 points with a minute to go, but Russell Westbrook kept missing free throws. Scott Brooks didn't take him out. Rui also missed the free throw, but Westbrook with the crazy rebound tip out to Bradley Beal sealed the game. And I guess somehow Russell Westbrook was still the player of the game, even though he almost choked away this game single-handedly. But he almost got a triple-double. Bradley Beal's inefficient. The Clippers bench played the Wizards bench. That's the reason why it was pretty close. But I think the Wizards played a pretty good game against a team without Paul George that they should actually beat.
So walk us through that last ending play because it was so crazy to me, and I don't understand why they didn't somehow foul Westbrook, in that moment. Like there was still like a couple of seconds left. I don't remember, but Arun, I mean, it was such a crazy ending. Can you walk us through it a little bit?
Yeah, they pretty much threw a half-court pass leading up to the foul play. They threw a half-court pass to Rui, who almost caught the ball out of bounds. And I think on that missed free throw by Rui, Westbrook, he didn't really have the ball even for that long. He tipped it out, and then maybe they were trying to foul him, but the officials didn't really see the foul, or if it's an off-ball foul, they give free throws and the ball possession back to the Wizards. And then I think the Clippers just gave up on the play. Like Lou Williams was tired of running, and he didn't think there was much of a chance of a win. He didn't even bother to foul Bradley Beal. Nobody boxed out Westbrook. Like Zubac had inside position. He's a 7-footer, and he's notorious for giving up those kinds of plays actually in the clutch. And it was a clutch play by Westbrook, even though he missed, I believe, like 3 free throws in that final minute. At least
it was hard to watch. He kept on missing free throws, and I was like, we're really gonna lose this game. Like it's gonna fall apart. And then I thought they were gonna get the rebound of that missed one and call a timeout and like somehow like set up a game winner. Like when the clock went 0, the tip out, I was like, oh my god, they won. Like I was shocked. Champ, what were some of your thoughts on it?
Once again, it adds to the narrative of this team. The previous game, they played down to a team that is not a strong team. And in this team right here, the 4th best team in the West, they played up to their competition. And look what happened. They won. Granted, it came on what was a wild, sloppy end of the game, but they managed to pull it out to get the victory. And when you look at the stats that you have up on the screen for those who are watching, it was somewhat evenly matched when it comes to shooting and everything like that. So it's another point in there that this team needs to play much better defense and keep teams from shooting well enough to be able to stay in games like this. But going into an All-Star game, this was a big, big win for this team, especially because it was their 10th win since the start of February after they had the whole COVID-19 outbreak where they couldn't play or practice for 2 weeks. The fact they were able to win 10 games out of 18 going into the All-Star break shows that this team has some momentum going into the second half of the season where it's going to be big for them to really start playing well in order to have a possibility of making the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on this game going into the All-Star break?
Yeah, I agree with Ken completely on the defensive comment. Just to allow that many 3-pointers is pretty bad. I mean, they still won the game, so it papers over a lot of that. But players like Kennard were just absolutely killing them on the 3-pointers. So the rotations do have to get a little bit better. And just, you kind of have to feel bad for Clippers fans. Paul George has missed a lot of games this year. He's had a wonderful season, but I think he's already missed double-digit games between COVID and I guess he drank too much caffeine and he got dizzy. So, that's a weird way to win a game. But as a Wizards fan, you'll definitely take it. And if you think about what would happen to the Wizards' psyche if they had lost this game, it would have been completely crushing. This was a huge swing. If they lose this and that Boston game and go into the All-Star break 8 games under 500, you never know how they're going to recover from that. So it was hilarious to read the group chat, especially what you were typing during this Clippers game, because you were like, oh no, oh fuck, oh crap, oh we won. But
that was my thought process. I was convinced we were going to lose this game, Tim. I was like,
oh yeah. I mean, this is a classic Wizards game to lose, to be honest, going back years. Yeah. But Westbrook, he choked it and unchoked it in the same couple seconds there. So, big win.
Yeah, big win. It's just so weird. Like, I really thought we were going to lose. I still think it's weird talking about a win even now, and it was a while ago, but let's just talk about the upcoming schedule first. We'll break that down. We'll save the All-Star talk to sort of the end, just because we're sort of on a roll with the Wizards talk. So they've got a couple of big games. They're going to play the Grizzlies on Wednesday, March 10th at 8 p.m., and then the 76ers come to Washington, starts a homestand on Friday, March 12th. And then on my wife Liz's birthday on Saturday, March 13th, they continue that homestand. This one will be up against the Bucks. And then they'll play the same opponent in Washington, again against Milwaukee on Monday during our podcast. And next week, we'll be doing a post-game show for that one. So unlike the hockey one, I didn't make us pick all 4 games. The game should be over by the time 10 o'clock rolls over, unless something really crazy happens. But let's talk about the different series. So it's against Grizzlies Wednesday, Sixers Friday, and then 2 against Milwaukee at both Saturday and Monday. The Saturday, Monday are at 7, and the Wednesday and Friday are at 8. I'll let each one of you guys pick a team that you want to talk about, an opponent, and then I'll let Brian talk about the All-Star game. So I'll start with you, Tim. Which opponent would you like to talk about?
I guess I'll talk about the 76ers. I just thought it was really interesting and also bad luck how their 2 stars in the All-Star game couldn't play. I guess they both got a haircut and the barber had COVID or probably had COVID. So kind of an interesting side story during the break there. But the 76ers have had a great first half of the season. Clearly, the Embiid and the rest of their stars have really gelled. Big bounce back year for a lot of their players. So this is going to be a very tough game, but I still remember the first game of the season in Philadelphia where the Wizards and 76ers played a really tight game, neck and neck. The 76ers pulled it out at the end, and I think they played again, and the 76ers won a pretty close game. So, again, I think the Wizards will play up to the 76ers, and they have a good chance, but they will be underdogs in this game because the 76ers are probably, I think, first in the East or up there.
Yeah, I'll check that right now. I'll go to Champ next. I think you wanted to talk about the Bucks game. Is that right?
Yes. Just to answer Tim's question, the 76ers are first in the East. But the interesting thing about the Bucks series is that the first game of this will come off a back-to-back with the 76ers. So you have to assume that you won't have Westbrook in that game because he'll most likely be resting. We don't know yet. But I have some confidence that they can split that series because they could probably catch Milwaukee. They can probably catch them slipping a little bit. They only have one game to start the second half of the season, and that's against the Knicks. So they'll only have one game under their belt, so they may be able to catch the Wizards slipping on Friday. But the Wizards may be able, or Saturday, I should say, but the Wizards may be able to catch them on Monday and be able to figure them out, especially because they'll be at home, which means the Bucks will be sleeping in hotel beds and not in their own comfortable beds, and they'll be able to catch them and be able to split that part of the home series and be able to get a measure of retribution, if you want to call it that, against the team. And again, it'll feed into the narrative of them playing up to the competition when the competition's better. So I call that this will be a split. They'll lose the Saturday game, but they'll win on Monday.
Yeah, it's interesting just for people that might be interested. Philadelphia 24-12 is number one going into the All-Star break, and then Brooklyn was right there at 24-13. So just played one more game and had one more loss. And then Milwaukee is not far behind at 22-14. So they're 2 games back. So we're playing 2 of those top 3 teams. Boston, then congratulations, the Knicks are in the 5 spot. Then Miami 6, Charlotte 7, Toronto 8, and then it's Chicago 9, Indiana 10, Atlanta 11, and Washington finds himself in 12th place above Cleveland, Orlando, and Detroit. So just the current standings in the Eastern Conference. All right, let me switch to Arun. Arun, which game do you want to talk about?
I'd rather talk about the All-Star game than any of the other games.
Nice. Do you all right, well that's fair. Well, we can get into the All-Star game because I know that Brian probably cares more about that too. So let me get a final or I'll ask Arun just real quickly, since we didn't really break down the Grizzlies game. Do you think that they'll get revenge for the last Grizzlies game? Or do you think that it's gonna go a similar way?
I mean, I was thinking it was going to go a similar way, but then I'm looking at the rest of the schedule, and the Wizards kind of have to win that game because that's the most winnable game of the next 4 games. So it's going to be, I think the Grizzlies are going to win, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Wizards win.
Right. Okay. And then I will, I'll just get Brian to give his thoughts real quick, and then I'll get each of you to give your weekly prediction on outcome of those games, and then we'll get into the All-Star game.
So you want my prediction on the Grizzlies game or the whole week?
Well, no, just pick one opponent. What do you think is an interesting storyline?
Okay, well, I will pick the Grizzlies game, actually. I think this is actually going to be an interesting game. The Wizards are going to be going for revenge. It's actually the first game in the entire second half of the entire NBA season, so that's pretty cool. I think it'll be a good matchup. I think it was a pretty good game when they played, so I'm looking forward to that one. I'll have my eyes on that game for sure on Wednesday night. I think that's going to be a good game.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So I'll just ask real quickly, those 4 games, 2 against the Bucks, again, both 7 o'clock Saturday and Monday at 7. And then we got the 76ers at home on 8 on Friday. And then the Wednesday at 8 Grizzlies game. I think it's going to be a tough sledding. I will start off and say I think we go 1-3. I'm going to go to Tim next. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think 1-3 with the schedule. They're playing. They've been playing better, but I'm tempted to do 2-2, but I can't.
All right, I'm gonna go to Champ. What is your thoughts?
I'm going 2-2. They're gonna beat the Grizzlies and they're gonna beat the Bucks on Monday, but they're gonna lose to the 76ers, and then they're gonna lose to the Bucks on a back-to-back.
Got it. Arun, what are your thoughts?
I'll go 1-3, and I think they'll also split against the Bucks somehow.
So they're splitting against the Bucks, but losing the Grizzlies and the Sixers.
Yeah.
Got it. And what are your thoughts, Brian?
I am actually going to go 2-2. I think they're going to beat the Grizzlies and win one of the Bucks games. I'm going to go 2-2. I'll be optimistic.
All right, nice. I like it. I hope that.
That's
I hope.
The new thing for us.
Yeah.
Brian,
Positivity.
pro
Spread
Wizards.
positivity vibes.
I like it. All right. I'm going to kill this now, and I'm going to let Brian have the floor and give his take. Can I spotlight? Hold on, does this work? Yeah. Brian, you have the floor. What were your thoughts on this wonderful All-Star game?
Yeah, I think I was against the concept of there being an All-Star game altogether, and then when it went in action, honestly, I was even more against it. The way everything was kind of crammed into one night, like I really didn't like it at all. But as far as the actual contests go, the skills contest was pretty cool. Domantas Sabonis won the skills contest from the Pacers. He's a big man, so it's kind of unusual for a big man to win the skills contest. That was pretty cool. The 3-point contest was actually, I will say, in terms of like highlights of the night, the 3-point contest might have actually been the highlight of the night. Like Steph Curry's performance as the 3-point contest, he did what he does best. I mean, he's the best 3-point shooter to ever do it. I mean, he's Steph freaking Curry. Like, he's amazing. So it was incredible to see him do what he did in the 3-point contest. I was really impressed by that. And then as far as the actual game goes, it was pretty boring, honestly. Team LeBron was much better. I thought it had a much better roster, and it showed, honestly. There was a good portion of Team Durant was injured for this game, and it really showed Team LeBron was much better, and they won by 20 points. And even with the crazy All-Star rule changes that they've had in the last couple of years, they still would have won. They still would have won by a lot. So I mean, the game itself was kind of it basically turned into just Damian Lillard and Steph Curry just shooting 3-pointers from half court. Like, that's all it was. Like, it got to a point where that's all. Like, the game literally ended on a Dame Lillard 3-pointer from the logo. Like, it was honestly not. I honestly wasn't a huge fan of it. And the dunk contest, I thought the dunk contest was kind of lame too. And I'm not just saying that because Obi Toppin from the Knicks lost the dunk contest. And I thought he should have won, but I thought the contest as a whole was kind of lame. I just kind of thought it was just kind of, the dunks weren't very original, and there wasn't a whole lot of creativity to it. I do think Obi Toppin should have won, but there wasn't a whole lot of creativity to it. And yeah, as a whole, I wasn't a huge fan of this event. Honestly, I just wasn't a big fan of it. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me see if I can pin Arun here.
Right there, though. I mean, it's hard to be creative in a dunk contest when everybody has done every single dunk known to man over the last 20 years. I mean, let's be for real.
Well, then why even have a contest if everything's already been done? What's the point?
Fact. I agree with you.
Yeah. That makes sense. Let me see. Can we go back to gallery view? Does that fix this? All right. So I want to get Arun's take real quick. Arun, what are some thoughts on the overall night and the different events?
I agree with Brian that the 3-point contest was probably the best event, especially since Steph Curry, he was down in the final rack, and he had to hit the money ball, which was worth 2 points to win the competition. Otherwise, he would have lost. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they also had Mike Conley's, who was this guy who was in first, reaction as he lost. And I think the first quarter was pretty much telling when they were only down by 1, but Zion Williamson missed 5 dunks for Team Durant. As Brian pointed out, they were missing Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, who's he's the MVP, one of the MVP frontrunners and probably the MVP frontrunner, and Devin Booker. But that second quarter, I think, was pretty crazy, even though, like, it was pretty one-sided. Those 3-pointers back-to-back half-court threes, like, by Dame and Steph, like, outdoing each other. Alley-oops to Steph Curry by Chris Paul, and Steph Curry threw an alley-oop to Chris Paul, which was pretty fun. I'm glad I recorded it, though, because if you're just sitting and watching that game, I don't think it's worth watching, but knocking it out in, like, 40 minutes to 45 minutes is pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? It's funny that you say that. I kind of regret not recording and watching it that way, because I feel like I was watching it along with other things, and it just could not hold my attention in competition. But if you could just like zip through it and see the highlights, I think I would have enjoyed it maybe more. Tim, were you able to stomach this and sit through it?
Not a lot of it, but I saw the halftime dunk contest, and I saw the third quarter, and I just gave up because they weren't even running hard. And it's like, yeah, like you guys were saying, every possession was a half court shot or kind of a really lazy defensive breakdown that led to like an easy dunk. So I turned it pretty quick, but I was not a fan of the dunk contest. Shout out to Anthony Simmons, first Trailblazer to ever win the dunk contest. But like his winning dunk was him kissing the rim, but he didn't kiss the rim. Like I get that it's dirty and it's COVID and you got high enough to do it, so that's kind of the cool part of it. But if you don't actually kiss the rim, it's stupid to me. So I agree. I think Obi Toppin's dunk was a little bit better, but his last round wasn't impressive either. Like he had a really bad miss on his first attempt that was kind of embarrassing. So at this point, the dunk contest is just like a showcase game for really young players. Like most of the opponents, I mean, people in it, you're like, who? So that it's lost its star power, but I think it'll be better next year, and I guess it could have been worse. Like
I think you
hopefully
need
nobody got sick.
fans. I think missing fans for the dunk competition for me is everything. Seeing the
Yeah.
fan reaction and all the celebrities.
Yeah, with the
and-
9s and the 10s.
Yeah,
like, in the stands,
like that's the I mean that's the energy, that's the hype. I think you take that away and it just doesn't really do it for me.
you just have Kenny yelling.
And look, until somebody puts their arm through the rim like Insanity did, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. There's some pretty classic dunks that it's hard to sort of compete at this level. Well, I appreciate you guys all for breaking it down and watching it honestly much closer than I ended up watching it. So I'm going to give each one of you guys a final thoughts segment, and then we're going to get out of here. So Tim, I'm going to start with you. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, it was a great show. I'm gonna listen to some of it later to hear the thoughts that I missed about Tom Wilson, but I just want the Wizards to have a good next couple weeks, stay competitive, stay in the race. I love that 10 teams will make it, so that they're probably going to stay in it longer because of that. So let's hope the 2-2 crowd is correct this week.
So I want clarification because I think that I understand. So it's 10 teams in both sides, right, that are making it?
Yeah. So 6 through 10, or sorry, 7 through 10 are the play-in teams.
Got it. And how many play-in games do they play? Is it aggregate 2 games or no? Is it just...
Yeah, I think it's the same. So like the 7 plays I guess it's the 7 plays the 10, and the 10 has to win two times, and the same with the 8 and the 9.
Interesting.
And I guess the higher seed is at home for both. I want to say Arun is probably gonna correct me there. But.
Yeah, Arun, do you know? We got this.
He agrees.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like the 10 seed plays the 7 seed, and the winner, if the 7 seed has to win twice, and same with the 8 versus 9 seed.
And they're both at home with the higher seed.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, well, there you go. Tim got it right. You nailed it. All right, so all along, no doubt. All right, sounds good. Well, Tim,
night, guys.
I appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
All right, Arun, knower of all things on the beach. What final thoughts do you have?
Yeah, just that slam dunk competition. It's not good when one of the contestants has never dunked in an NBA game. That's a pretty weird thing. I guess Brandon Scherf got franchise tagged just now, so I guess that was unexpected. And no RG3 news. Sorry, I guess he's tweeting about MMA according to Tim, but I haven't been paying attention.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate your time as always, Arun, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks for having me on.
All right, Champ, I'm gonna go to you next. What's on No Spots podcast this week?
Well, on No Spots this week, myself and Sage will be on Wednesday to talk about the first round of the New Japan Cup that is taking place in Japan currently. So we'll break that down as well as preview the second round of the New Japan Cup. And then on Saturday, myself and Seth, we are going to recap what, in my opinion, was the best wrestling pay-per-view of 2021 so far. You get all of that and more on the No Spots podcast this week.
Awesome. Definitely check it out. SportsOTHP.com. Click on the podcast partners button. Click on No Spots Podcast, and you get all of the episodes right there. Or you can find No Spots Podcast on any of the podcast platforms. And I appreciate your time as always. And, we've been a part of the True Radio Network together for a very long time. And I appreciate your insight on all different sports. And we'll talk to you next week, champ.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. All right. We've already talked about it a little bit, Brian. If people want to know your favorite monuments, check out the Brian Brennan podcast this week, upon further review with Brian Brennan. And again, the podcast partners button on sportsothp.com. Click on upon further review with Brian Brennan, and you can find this and as well as the outro. And do you have any thoughts on what you're going to be talking about this week?
Yeah, actually, on Wednesday night, I'm recording a roundtable with Michael Edgley, Tim Clark, and Arun Bhattacharya, because Wednesday is actually 1 year to the day that all of us went to a Knicks Wizards game at Capital One Arena, and then the next day, Rudy Gobert tested positive for coronavirus, and all of sports shut down. So we're going to have a roundtable where we kind of reflect on that and what the last year's kind of been like in the sports world, and dealing with coronavirus and everything. I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to recording this. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. It's kind of funny that you guys got to go to basically like one of the last Wizards games.
I know, right?
And that's kind of a crazy thing in the end. But I appreciate Brian as always for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
All right, sounds good. All right, Carol. Any final thoughts that you have before we head out of here?
No, just sitting back listening to the roundtable. I'm just glad I didn't watch that NBA All-Star game from the way it sounds. As always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate all the contributors, fans, folks with the comments on the Facebook live feed. If you notice, it's been a while since I've done a live stream on my page. Not going to get into that today because certain social media folks was trying to hold me down, but it's all good.
I'm trying to still hold you up. You still exist on Facebook through this, even if they don't want to believe that.
On Facebook, it's through the SportsOTHP page right there.
Yeah.
You can always check out my YouTube channel, the Carol Porter III. That's with 3 I's, not the number 3. Or you can check out my Periscope/Twitter page, Tattoo Scorpio or Carol Porter III. You can also check out SportsOTHP.com for the apparel line. Robbie got the Michigan Champions pillow on the back, got the t-shirt on, I got the backdrop, got the Washington football team edition. Go check it out. We'll cop some gear, help support the movement, keep real DC sports alive, not just clickbait and fake tweets about stuff that you have no idea about. That's why we say DC sports by the politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do, baby. Be back at you live next Monday for the 5-year anniversary of SportsOTHP. Stay tuned. The week after that, we'll be taking off and getting ready for.
Yeah, we have 2 weeks. So it's next week we have the 5-year anniversary special next week, and then we've got the season 5 finale show the week after that. And then we'll take a week off, and then we'll come back with our season 6 premiere, and we'll bring back baseball, which I know will make Brian Brennan happy. And so I think what we're going to do is we'll start hockey, we'll go baseball, and then we'll go basketball. But maybe baseball and basketball might be interchangeable. So we'll just see the schedule of the guys and what they're able to do. Because either way, we can either end with baseball or end with basketball. We'll figure it out. We'll also next week have 2 live sports games, a live Wizards game that will be sort of a post-game show for, as well as a live Capitals game that we'll be doing like during the last end of the game, plus a post-game show for that as well. So a very busy 5th anniversary special. And then again, that season 5 finale show will kind of wrap up how that season went with the COVID stuff. And then we'll look forward to taking a week off and I'll spring break. And then we'll come back with baseball, which is crazy that baseball's already back, Carol. And we'll be juggling 3 sports again. And a whole new season. And I can't believe baseball is doing a full season. It's not one of these, they're going to play all the teams. They're going to play all the games. It's not, It's pretty surprising, I would
Turns
say.
out. Yeah, we're gonna see how it turns out. But yeah, I miss baseball. Can't wait a chance to see the Nats get back on the field and try to put together another good run and a good season. Definitely want to break that down in the upcoming season. And got football all season starting on the 17th. More players going to be getting released. I was just going over the news and notes while y'all were talking football. I mean, talking basketball. And yeah, it's like a couple of notable players are already starting to get cut. So it's going to be an interesting season 6. As you say, appreciate y'all following us, riding with us, supporting us, and keeping the movement alive.
5 years, Carol. That's pretty awesome. I think about how many shows that we've been able to do, and how many different things we've been able to cover. I mean, look at the things that we're able to, see the World Championship and the Stanley Cup, and it's just it's cool that these shirts get to prove this awesome time period. Of sports, this sort of renaissance, right, for the Washington D.C. sports. Because before our podcast, it'd been a huge drought, right? So we gotten to cover a lot of big things of a lot of big sports teams, and hopefully a lot of big things to come. I hope that we're right with the Capitals. We have this feeling they're doing really well. They're still grinding and they're still pushing. You just got to get in that top 4 spots, and who knows what's going to happen with how this playoff bracket will shake out. You don't need to be the number 1 team going into it. You just got to be the number 1 team coming out of it. So we'll see how that all that shakes out, and whether or not the Wizards will make it. If 10 teams make it this year, maybe they squeak in as one of those teams, and we get a play-in game or something. So a lot more to cover for sure in the next couple of months, and we really appreciate everybody for riding with us.
No doubt, and as always, when you end the show with Renegade 703, make sure you go follow. Got more exciting things coming from him, videos, photo shoots, performances. So be on the lookout. Make sure you check out At the Bar Radio Sunday, 6 p.m. streaming live on either At the Bar podcast page or my page. Check it out. Different perspectives, different views. Follow best independent music show around. Cover current events, politics, crazy stuff. Tune in and find out how we roll on Sunday night. But I'm out. Renegade 703, Money Convo. You know how we do. CP3, Robbie G, SportsOTHP, and we out.